Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Friday. It's finally Friday. You guys I don't even know. Do the days of the week really even matter when it comes to when you relax? Are you ever relaxing? I need to know. I'm excited because Fridays are our pizza night. So I do whiskey and a cookie after the show at 7 o'clock. We jump on Facebook. You can go to the Patti Vasquez show page where we do, it's kind of like a cocktail hour. Well, clearly whiskey and cookie, cocktails not required. It's more of a frame of mind than a required element to the evening. We spent about a half an hour to an hour going over some of the news and just some stories. Adam Selzer, Elliot Serrano, Esmeralda Leon, and Scott Santos are invariably joining me on Friday nights. I don't know who we'll have tonight, but I look forward to catching up with everybody. And I really, I'm a little excited, overwhelmed, and a little trepidatious about the fact we are about to hit 10,000 followers on our Patti Vasquez show page. Please join us. And I do want to stress this. Joining us and chiming in the conversation. I know there are a lot of folks, and thank you on Facebook, those of you that watch the show live. I know some of you have reached out to me and said there's a lot of trolls on the page. We're trying to figure out a way to manage that. I think there's a way to, especially ones that are, threatening, overly insulting. There's a guy, someone sent me a screenshot of someone using the R word, and I have to find out what post that was on. But that's what is prevalent to me. It seems using words like libtard, the full R word. There's so much vitriol, and in response to things as cut and dry, I would say, is the Supreme Court ruling that this guy from Maryland, must be that the United States needs to facilitate his return, which we now are learning. They're like, I don't know where he is, which we kind of knew, and then also raised a lot of concerns for his safety, in addition to having been sent to this gulag in El Salvador. But so people are, they're just completely unhinged on many of these posts. We put up one post yesterday. So just so you know, we have several people that run the page. So it's not always me posting. It's not always me responding. I try to dip in to sort of keep the conversations going. If I see something that's really glaringly awful or just incredibly easy to refute, I'll try to do that. And I do get a little bit snarky. I'm still trying to figure out what do you guys think I should do? Because when I was working with the Wisconsin Dems and knocking on doors for Judge Susan Crawford and candidates across the state, I was dedicating 25 doors to the incredibly insulting, horrible, hateful statements I was getting, especially directly into my DMs. Like I'll read what I got today, but I would dedicate 25 doors in the name of the offender and say, hey, Peter Crown from Indiana really wanted me to come by. He's not gonna have a chance to get out here. So I would use their names and dedicate doors in there, and it was motivating me. So now I need to figure out what the next Petty Patty adventure should be for the really nasty comments that I get. And really just and look, I know folks are they're asking me to just ignore them. I go through the DMs because there will be people that reach out to me regarding the show or have other questions. Like our friends from Elsinore, the theater company, they communicate with me through that. And there are more people I should just give my direct email to, and that would obviously alleviate that. But there's always going to be some folks that prefer to communicate that way, or it's easy for them to use the DM. So here, and what's funny to me is some of the nasty ones, they immediately then block me. So we're not even having, they're just coming into my DM. They leave a nasty comment. Here's Kimberly McLean Bennett from New York, I believe. And it's so funny when you go to their page, because I have a personal page, so then I can track down these folks. And then this woman, Lady B, she's spilling her personal tea all over Facebook about a guy she used to date. I was going through. But I'm not, I'm not going to poke that, right? She's seriously dealing with something. Anyway, Kimberly McLean Bennett says, another uneducated, brain-dead blue sheeple who has absolutely no damn clue what's going on. You spew BS and garbage for attention. You're a joke, and you need to just shut your big mouth. And I do have a big mouth. I think we discussed this yesterday. What did Mr. Zelensky say? I have a mouth like a caboose with no engine on an endless track that goes on and on forever. So strap yourself in, Kimberly, because I ain't going anywhere. Keep talking, darling. And then James Rust wrote, hold on. And now we are actually having a back and forth because James Rust wrote to me in my DMs, liberalism is a mental disorder! Exclamation point. He didn't write it out. I just have to make sure I guess since I was yelling. So we have an automatic response on the Patti Vasquez show page, and it just says, "Hi, thanks for contacting us. We've received your message and appreciate you reaching out." So he writes back, "No problem, but trying to normalize mental illness doesn't make it normal. Liberalism is a mental illness." So after I got off work today, I wrote, "Feel free to share any scientific research which you are basing the statement. Would truly be interested in learning where you're coming from." Right. Meanwhile, I shared articles from Scientific America, which that talks about the shared psychosis of Donald Trump and his loyalists. There's another study that Donald Trump is spreading a dangerous mental illness to his followers. The MAGA Republicans are much more likely to endorse delusional and pro-violent sentiments. And so he just wrote back, "Democrats are destroying the country on purpose, and they are the enemy of the country. Democrats' policies," it's policies plural, but he did it with an apostrophe S. I was going to say it's policies, "have never fixed, repaired, or improved anything, especially in California." So these are all, so how far do I take that, right? To show that since the turn of the 19th century into the 20th century, right, Democrats have done better for the economy. Every Republican has been responsible for a recession and diminishing the middle class. But I'm not going to go one-on-one with this guy. I'll let him know that I'm still waiting. Hold on, I'll do a voice to text. I'm still waiting for some scientific research or data to back any of this up, period. Looking forward to your response. Have a wonderful evening. Okay, that was live. So that's it. But I'm very cheerful. I don't know. I'm trying to think in the entire time I've been on Facebook. Look, I'll be the first to tell you that when I decided to when I spilled my own tea in a former professional situation, and I've never regretted posting, because for years I have been dealing with a very toxic workplace, and I had a producer who was so emotionally abusive, right? So I put up, after so much time of going through this, and it was always dudes, and all the dudes that I had all wanted their own shows, every single one of them, and God bless them, right? But because they were behind the glass and could move things around the way they wanted to, they were the ones that managed the tech screen. They would manipulate things behind, and I would find out about it, like from Esmeralda Leon and from other folks. So I had made a request. I had asked my producer, because they were in charge. I had to put everything for bookings through my producer, and I said, "Hey, if a guest cancels," because I found out right before the show was about to start, right before I was going to open the mic and start a show with a sidekick that was extremely negative. Like everything was no, right? Everything that I said was wrong, and it was such a slog. But I said, "Hey, if a guest is going to cancel." Because I found out later that night that this guest had canceled at 12:30 in the afternoon, and the producer didn't tell me until 20 minutes to 7. And I was like, "When am I supposed to? What topics are we doing?" And he goes, "I'll just send some to you while you're on the air." And I was like, "Oh my God!" So I said to him, I said, "Hey, if someone cancels on the show, just try to give me a heads up." He goes, "Okay, boss." And it was such a straw. You could hear the camel's back. If you were around that evening and you heard us and you're like, "What was that?" It was a camel's back breaking from a straw. And so I posted on Facebook. Hey, quick question: when someone says "Okay, boss," do you take it as a term of endearment or go F yourself? And the responses went from there. And I think while it went sideways for me, it went very badly for me. And I've come to realize that I needed to do something to just find a way out, because it was so bad. And that's scary when you have full-time employment, especially when you have a great platform, a wonderful audience. It was hard to, and I had tried to. At any rate, social media can be a dangerous place to air your stuff out and get involved and try to tangle with people. So my long way of getting back around to this is when you join the conversation on the Patti Vasquez show page. First of all, take a deep breath on any page we are engaging with folks or reacting to things. My friend Susana Flores, Dr. Flores, has talked to us often about the ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster of being on social media. When you get that rage, we know from testimony in D.C., the people from Facebook and from Twitter and all these, they knew that they could make more money if it made people angry. So please keep that in mind. They are making money off of our rage. I have not. Someone asked me today if I'm monetizing the Patti Vasquez show page. I have not. I mean, I've been thinking about making shirts that say, "Are you hydrating?" But right now, it might not be a great time to buy T-shirts, is what I'm seeing. So if I was, you would know if I was monetizing anything. I'm not making any money off of the Facebook page, not even for Whiskey and a Cookie. I kind of like what I do, and I'm a really bad business person. At any rate, what I'm saying is please be measured, be aware that we are being manipulated by the billionaires on social media. The people who are the most angry and rabid, those folks who are calling us libtards and telling us we're stupid and things like that, they have been manipulated. And I think our rage is well placed, but we have to sort of pace ourselves, not get sucked in. I think telling you not to take it personally is really hard when it feels that way, right? Especially when you feel like you can hear what they're saying. So please take a deep breath. Here, just think of this music when you are trying to dip into social media and just sort of, and just remember this is what I try to tell myself when I'm really stressed. Nothing truly bad is happening to me right now. Like, truly bad things have happened in my life, in your life. Right now, this stress is something that we can manage, that we can address. We have power over how we react to things. We cannot control the way people think and what they do. We can control how we react. If you want to be outraged, if you want to be like me and be petty Patty, be mindful of it. Be aware of it. That's all I want to say. And to that, I want to thank all of our sponsors who keep me mindful. And before I talk about our sponsors, do me another favor. Whenever you hear a business that is on our show, please do a quick search and maybe go support them if they have products that you're interested in. Like yesterday, for example, we had Timeless Toys and Funk Grove. They have a produce. They have a fruit farm and a syrup. Funk Grove syrup. Go to their website and support what they do, because a lot of the businesses that come on here, they get backlash from folks for appearing on this show. So I don't want. I would really hate for folks who we want to share their story. They're experts. Both of those guests we had yesterday were experts when it comes to ag and when it comes to what small businesses are going through. And the fact that they come on here and all of a sudden they're a target is really upsetting. And the best thing I can do is say, please support them. And that goes obviously even more so for our sponsors, because they are investing in these conversations. They believe in this. So thank you so much to Source Solar. Go to source.solar and find out if perhaps now is the right time for you to put solar panels on your house and join over 100,000 people who are very happy in the Chicagoland area. On Tuesday, we will be at the Madison Tap Room for Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com to find out more. You can also follow them on Facebook. We'd love to see you there on Tuesday for the live broadcast from 5 to 7. And, of course, you can order some great woke coffee or maybe some great gear. They got great T-shirts and hats. I got my Viva la Resistance shirt. I don't have it on. I have my Chicago Solidarity shirt on right now. So if you're watching on Facebook, hi everybody. And I also want to thank our friends at the Way Back In. We have been really grateful for their conversations regarding problem gambling. If someone that you love or yourself are dealing with this issue, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit areyourreallywinning.com. We'll be back after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 Seattle, Washington.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
We are going to get to your calls. Let me also check in with our listeners who are texting in, and I will take your texts in the order they were received. We have crazy how we're in a position where U.S. Marshals might be deployed against the Justice Department, and NPR is just yapping about the stock market. Isn't that crazy? I know. We are living in the upside down, folks. From the 773. Hi, Allison. Pizza, I believe. I never remember if it's on Lawrence. The one in Portage Park or the one on Western. I think there are two, and I have been to both. I've been to Pete's Pizza. They have really good pizza. I much enjoy. Thank you for asking. Do you enjoy their pizza? Like I said, tonight's pizza night. I think maybe I'll order pizza tonight, but I've been ordering from Frank's. I have several places. I love thin crust from the Tavern Cut. When I order my thin crust, I always order it well done. It caramelizes the cheese a little bit and crisps up the crust. So I do Frank's Pizza, Joe's on Higgins, Joe's Pizza over here on Milwaukee Avenue, and Pete's Pizza over by there. I can't remember if it's Lawrence or Montrose. I always get those two confused. I gotta say it's Lawrence? No, Montrose? I'll figure it out. At any rate, we have 708. Stop the stupid. The toxic clown might be the only person on earth that can unite our divided country / world against him. Oh, I see. Because I've been watching videos today of some fart around and find out folks. In particular, it's small business owner. There's a guy who comes out, has a video talking about how he voted for Trump. And he doesn't say I didn't vote for this. He just says that he's going to be done. He'll be out of business in 6 months if he can't find anybody to supply the materials he needs for his company. There's a guy on Fox News today who runs like a bike business. They have those carts where you can have the kids in front with like harnesses, and he says he's probably got about 6 months because he doesn't have any suppliers. And the one with just the social media video is like, I'm sorry, it's not. These are people's lives, and this is where I know we have to find grace because it's not just the employers. They might have people that work for them that are not MAGA, but unfortunately they work for someone who is, and it affects their families, their communities. I don't want to see people go out of business. I just don't know how to feel about people who wanted this because they thought other people would suffer and not them. So it's a lot to manage, folks. And most of the people who seem to on my page just seem to be Republicans or MAGA or GOP because they hate liberals. Like that, like just saying liberals have never, like policies of liberals have never helped is flat out wrong, because we see what the New Deal did under Franklin Roosevelt and how much we have been. Has it always been run perfectly? Never. But, you know, and this is the hard part, is knowing that we have gone in this direction in part because of Citizens United, where Democrats are not necessarily pushing in the ways that would support this the most. And it has become stagnant. That doesn't mean that those weren't good programs and can't be done better. I just don't know how we are able to come back from the decimation of Doge. Hey, Patty, you met my daughter last Friday. She's an intelligent, kind, empathetic, and involved individual. She's been sharing factual articles on social media, and she has started to receive the truly nasty messages. I'm telling you, folks, you have to just steel yourself. Just be ready for it. Just let it roll off of you. I have to remember that. She has started to receive the truly nasty messages. She even had her uncle. Her uncle. She says, not my relative. They say not my relative, brother of my ex. He flipped her the bird and then unfriended her, even when she offered to go all the way to Tennessee to sit and talk with him. She is being careful, but she said that she will not be silent. And I've been thinking about this, and I wonder what the reaction will be on the Facebook page. Again, we're going to hit 10,000, I think, within the next week or two, which is double where we started the year with. And that shows you that people are really looking for our voices. They're looking for a place where they can have these conversations and know that someone's fighting. But I have thought about posting this question, Lady B, of quick question. I'm first generation Mexican American. I'm also second generation Irish American, but nobody cares about that part. And I'm clearly a very vocal critic of the president. Do you think, as MAGA, that someone like me should be deported? That I should have because I really think that there are people who think someone like me should be rounded up, and I would be curious if people would be putting that out there, because for one, it'd be nice to see the cockroaches come out of the corners, is all I'm saying. Let's get to Jim in Chicago. Your calls are being answered in the order they were received. Hey, Jim, how are you doing?
Hi, Patty. I hope everybody has their equilibrium this weekend. Lady B, your listeners, just try to hang on to some middle ground. But I was thinking, you're young and you're on social media and so on. Now, when I was young, I spent all my youth in bars in Chicago, in bar rooms in Chicago. And I was in many, many brawls and bar rooms because I said the magic word, and most of the time I was outnumbered in those ways. So
why am I not surprised, Jim? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but anyway, what I would do was, what I realized as I got about 18, 19, I always checked the door. Did the door push in, or did you have to pull it out? If you had to pull it in, you were in trouble because you had to be able to get. If you were fighting 3 or 4 guys, you got to get them outside. You got to get them outside. You got to fight your way to the door and get them outside. If the door pushes in, it's got to push out.
Fair. Yeah, you don't want to be trapped. You don't want to be trapped at that door. Sure.
You can't get trapped in the joint. If you get trapped in the joint, it can get very dangerous. Please believe me. So then you got to bite your tongue. But anyway, we got enough of that nonsense. But we've got Nero fiddling while the United States burns. And what's interesting, you see, maybe he used an accordion. I know Nero used the fiddle, but you see where he moves his hands back and forth. He constantly moves his hands back and forth, like he must have played the accordion as a kid or something. But what frosted me was when he said he used a vulgar term for his rear end, and he said they're kissing the vulgar term, of course, being the gentleman he is and being the good example he is for children.
Yeah,
because they'll be, and he says this at the Republican. They're supposed to be gentlemen, or you would think that these people running for office would have some more to come of civility, but apparently they don't. And so Trump says this ignorant thing that they're kissing his behind. But think of this: you know how his biggest behind is? If you had to get around him, Patty, in a fire, you would have to swivel through his behind is enormous. Did you see him golfing?
I know. I mean, did you see the one where when your waistline is as high as your elbows?
Yeah. I mean, dear God in heaven. Nobody's got. I used to tell Republicans that. I used to tell them, this is the first term. I said, remember, Nixon they got Nixon's helicopter all polished up for Trump. I said, but the trouble is they got to take the door and widen the door for his behind because he's got the biggest behind in American history. I thought he'd be impeached immediately. I couldn't believe he got off the hook. I can't believe he got away with all this baloney. Think if I ran a phony university, Patty, and I bought a piece for $25 million. Or you think my brother, he had a couple of big businesses. He owned many, many subways, at least over a dozen of them. And we did a lot of work for commercial work. The point is, if he got 34 felony counts, he'd be in Mexico City, Patty. He wouldn't be here.
I know. The idea that,
I mean?
if you commit a crime, you don't deserve due process. If you commit a crime, you can be deported. It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And now you have to look. He's exhausting the courts. The money that we're spending. First of all, we're losing all kinds of money in tourism. But he's exhausting the courts. He's got the lawyers in courts every 10 minutes.
I know.
Anyway,
thanks, Jim. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourself.
Have a good weekend, dear. Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask our listeners to please hold on the line. I will get to your calls. We have a guest coming up, and I want to make sure that I get to all your calls. And I'm trying to manage everything for a wonderful Friday. But Sarah Vogel is going to join us in just a moment. She's a senior VP of Healthy Communities, and we'll talk to her in a moment, and then return to your phone calls. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW in Seattle, 1150.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. In a moment, we're going to talk to Sarah Vogel, and I'm excited about this conversation. I checked in with our listeners who are on hold, and they said that they're in Stan is in Champaign, and he's got some shopping to. Wait, Stan, you're at Walmart? Is that the only place you can go?
Well, I seem to be here an awful lot, way too much.
We'll find you another place. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your courtesy in taking my call, and you know what I'm talking about there. But anyway, I had a radio program on a nonprofit station down here in Champaign for 10 years, but I only had a 2-hour show once a week. And when I was on that program, I wanted to prove, if you will, to people that Republicans were just a bunch of scammers. And so everybody down here is pretty red. And I went back to the Dow Jones Industrial Average on one show, and it was formed in 1896. And if you go from 1896 until today, you would find that the Dow Jones Industrial Average, every percentage point every 10th of a percentage point, every 100th of a percentage point increase from $40 to $40,000 or whatever it is today came under Democratic administrations.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because that guy in my DMs who came back and said our policies are terrible, Democrats' policies are terrible. I again have sent him several articles that economic performance is stronger when Democrats hold the White House, and the economic performance is always stronger under Democrats, and recessions are more likely to happen under Republicans. But this is they don't. It's just that they hate. I don't understand people when they just seem to hate compassion, people who want others to thrive, to support the programs that make our communities better. They hate that stuff. And I honestly don't get it, Steve. I really don't. But thank you so much for calling in. You have a good weekend, okay, my friend?
Thank you, and you too.
Thank you. I love Champaign-Urbana. Hey, Frank in Wisconsin, what's on your mind, my friend?
Calling about...
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, what they did was illegal and it was unconstitutional, and Congress just let them, because they had to go through Congress to do what they did.
Yep.
Okay. So bottom line is Congress is scared of Donald Trump because of the midterm elections coming.
Yep.
And these people, like in Wisconsin, the congressman went to town halls and people were screaming at him and everything. And he says, I'm completely, what Trump is doing is okay.
Yeah.
So Congress is not doing their job.
Nope.
So we can't wait for the midterm elections because that's what they're scared of Donald Trump. I suggest that we start recalling.
I wish we had enough momentum. There might come a point where there are more people that want that, but I don't know what's going to take. I really don't. Frank, I'm so glad you called in, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. I hope you have a lovely evening. Okay, my friend.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to bring our guest on. Sarah Vogel joins us. She's Senior Vice President at Healthy Communities. Sarah, I don't ask folks how they're doing anymore. I ask if they're hydrating. Are you staying hydrated?
I am staying hydrated. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. I always ask our guests, so our audience gets to know you a little bit better. Where did you grow up, my friend?
Well, that's a good question. I currently live in Washington, D.C., and I actually was born here, partially raised here, and in Colorado.
Oh.
But my sister calls home Chicago.
Oh,
Well,
what's your sister's name?
Yeah.
Maybe we know her. I'm just kidding.
Her name's Amy Vogel.
I'll have to look her up
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be. I was fascinated by environmental sciences. I as a science project, I did acid rain project and things like that. What was sort of your beginning in this field?
Oh, that's such a great question. Yeah, I, too, sort of was always interested in sort of saving animals and being outside and running around, and really got drawn to the field of environment pretty early on as a kid. And then for me, it was about the fact that, a healthy environment made me feel healthier. And then that led to really trying to understand how, access to clean water and clean air and safe food and products are a huge part of what makes us unwell or live healthy lives. And so that has really led to really understanding the relationship between our environment and our health. So that's been a huge part of the work that I've done for now too many years.
Well, I'm glad that you've been doing it. I think that it's important that we have experienced individuals like yourself at different levels of sharing the information, of doing the research, of championing our environment. I know that it seems right now to be one of the backseat elements because there's so much happening so fast in D.C. And yet I know that young people know that this is one of the crises of their lifetimes. For me, I think that healthcare, but environment has a lot to do with that. As you mentioned, how healthy we are. So how are you holding up these days is, I guess, first of all.
Yeah. It's been really challenging, to say the least, because I think there's been really almost like a three-pronged effort to really take away, sort of the basic safeguards from really pollution that impacts our health. There's been efforts to go after the rules that restrict harmful pollution. There's been efforts to fire officials at the Environmental Protection Agency and to cut really critical core research that helps us understand the relationship between a changing environment and environmental pollution and our health. And then there's just been a really overt decision by this administration not to enforce, really the rules that are and really the laws of this land that have been designed to make our environment cleaner and safer for people. And so that, we're many fronts in which we are trying to help hold back, some of the more aggressive actions that are really threatening, our ability to all live in a healthy world. So yes, it's been quite a couple months, that's for sure.
I know that early on, and I don't know which blockades of funding are associated with what, because at the end of January when there was this memo to OMB about freezing everything, and people had to prove, organizations had to prove they weren't participating in making sure that everyone has equal access to employment, whatever. What elements? I know that right away. I think Chicago, the things that we learned about first was like our carp situation. The funding for that has been eliminated, meaning that there'll be an invasion of this species that doesn't belong in our waters, and that's just one of the things. But I didn't realize that some of these corporations or these companies or these offenders of spreading pollution into our environment are pretty much already have the leash off, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're concerned about at the moment has been that a couple of weeks ago, the EPA provided basically an email portal by which allowed industry to come in and ask for an exemption, basically a pass to pollute, an exemption from a suite of rules that are designed to limit emissions of pretty highly toxic chemicals. These are what are called hazardous air pollutants. And really the idea is to get a presidential exemption from these standards in the name of national security. One of those rules was just passed last year after experts at the EPA had done a tremendous amount of work to develop a new set of guidance for about 200 petrochemical plants that are all over the country, including around the Chicago region, to really put limits on 6 of these highly toxic chemicals, and also to do monitoring, because we actually don't really know what's actually coming out of these facilities. And so what we saw come in over not long after that opportunity to get this kind of pass to pollution was offered, we saw trade associations coming in and asking for the exemption for all of those 200 plants. And so that's a huge blow, I think, to Americans all over the country, all over regions where these facilities often tend to be clustered, because some of these chemicals that are being emitted are things like benzene or vinyl chloride, toluene. These are all pretty well-defined and well-known cancer-causing compounds. They can cause respiratory impacts to the liver. These are serious compounds. And, the idea that you could just completely get out of a requirement under the Clean Air Act is just so profoundly unacceptable. I don't think anybody, I actually think, regardless of your political affiliation, I don't think anyone voted or signed up to breathe more toxic air, knowing that the risks what those risks come with. So what we've done is we've developed this new interactive tool and map where you can see where these plants are. You can see which ones have sought an exemption, at least so far, and what the health risk may be for the area that you live in, because we really just need to get the word out, because in many ways, right, this is an invisible threat. There's so much going on right now. It's hard to keep track of all of the things that may be taken away or are being undermined right now, and I understand that. For me, this is so fundamental because I think we all have a right to breathe clean air, and it's what we've done such incredible work as a country to make that air cleaner, and this is just taking us completely in the wrong way, and it benefits a tiny portion of people, right? It benefits those companies alone, and not the public's health, which is really the role of the Environmental Protection Agency.
Oh, I have so many questions. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but I need to take a quick break here for a couple minutes, and I'd love to continue the conversation if that's okay with you.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, I appreciate it. We're talking to Sarah Vogel from the Environmental Defense Fund. She's Senior Vice President, Healthy Communities, and we want to find out where we can find that map when we come back on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal, and KKNW, Seattle, Washington, 1150.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you for joining us as we continue to drive it home right here on WCPT 820 in Chicago and KKNW 1150 in Seattle, Washington. We've been talking to Sarah Vogel, the Senior Vice President, Healthy Communities for the Environmental Defense Fund. Sarah, as I mentioned, again, thank you for joining us for this important conversation. You mentioned earlier that there's an interactive map where we can find out where some of these companies that have been basically applying for the ability to spread toxins into the environment. Is that a good way to put it? Or
that's probably fairly accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So you can find it, and I'll say it twice because it's not an easy one, but it's at www.clearflab.org. So that's clear and then COLLAB.org. And it'll take you to the map, and you can move around the country. You can look at individual facilities. You can see the chemicals they're producing. You can see if they've had violations with the Clean Air Act requirements. And then what you can see is how high of a health risk is coming from some of the toxic compounds in the air in your area. And then there's places where you can link to take action, and we'll be updating that part of the site as the situation is evolving.
Can you repeat that again? Is it clearlab.org?
Clear Collab.
Oh, so Collab. I apologize. Yes.
Yeah. So ClearCollab.org.
God, I was like, there was two. I was listening, and then I got distracted. I'm like that dog in Up. Squirrel. I'm sorry. So, one of the things. So this we can find out if we live near. And here's the thing. Ultimately, if someone lives near these, we all live near these because I just lost a friend last November who to tongue cancer, and her sister had died several years before of breast cancer, and it occurred to me. So she grew up in Baton Rouge, which I then found out. Yeah, see, right? Yeah. So that's a cancer alley, isn't it?
Yes, there's you'll see on this map that there are areas around the country where these facilities are really heavily clustered, and that region that you're just describing between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, which has been called Cancer Alley, has just an incredibly high density of these facilities, as well as different communities around the Gulf Coast in Texas and Louisiana. But what you can see from the map is that they really are everywhere. It's just obviously when you have a cluster of them, the communities, living with adjacencies and around these facilities are bearing a pretty heavy burden from pollution from those facilities.
Oh man!
We've also put in. You can also see where the air quality. So this is coming from lots of different emissions. From the tailpipes of cars and power plants, where you may not be in what's called attainment for clean air standards. So that's an additional health burden, if you will, from other sources of pollution. So we're trying to show more of a real-world experience of how people may be being exposed to pollution in communities across the country.
Yeah, I'm on the page right now, and Baton Rouge is below Houston. I just see the map. That was when I found out about her sister and how quickly this. And look, she was almost 50, but these are things that if you grow up around in these areas, right? We might think, that when I was a kid, but it always cracks me up. It always scares me when people are like, I'm fine, and it's like, okay, maybe you're immune system is different or you're built differently, but why would you want to expose people, families, children to this? I feel like nobody saw Erin Brockovich, Sarah.
Yeah. I know the story has been told many times, and communities across the country who've been fighting to clean up the facilities in their communities have been fighting them for decades and decades, which is why when, the Biden administration issued this new rule last year to cut 6 of these, really hazardous chemicals in these 200 facilities, it was a real commitment to those communities. The administrator at the time, Michael Regan, had spent time going all around the country to really learn and talk to communities in some of the more heavily burdened, pollution-burdened areas and really made a commitment to them. And they delivered on that. And now we're seeing an effort to just completely, sidestep this rule and not go through proper requirements, which is, you get a challenge. We have a process by which you challenge rules, right? You either litigate them and take them to court, and if they need to be redone, the administration has to go through a whole public process, and they are, they're really trying to use a tiny little provision in this law, which would allow for a temporary suspension in the name of an actual, emergency, and essentially taking a small piece of that law and just driving a freight truck through it, creating just a huge loophole to allow more people to pollute.
Just want to let folks know in the Chicagoland area, there are 4. I mean, the furthest south one is Morris. There's 2 near Joliet, and then 1 south and west of Chicago. If you go to the interactive map at clearcollab.org, that's, if you think of collaboration here on WCPT, that's a collab. Clearcollab.org, and this is a really helpful map. What can we do to what should we do? What action would you ask of our audience and people who are invested in our future and our environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, everyone keeps saying this, but it's true. We need people to weigh in with local, state, and federal representatives that they know this has happened and that it's entirely unacceptable, that they have a right to clean air, and that these, just bypassing these rules is going to put their children's and their families' health at risk. We really do need more people because it's so noisy and there's so many issues going on to raise this issue up. I think the more you can tell your story, if this has really impacted you, if these facilities have impacted you, we know that makes a difference with lawmakers when they hear from people, who are really who are living with the consequences of this pollution. And so that is a necessary step that we need, the work that we're doing in terms of, making sure that the law is followed and upholding, kind of the best of science. We can't do any of that if we don't have, a mass movement behind us saying this is just wrong. So that, that's where we're trying to provide opportunities for people to more easily take actions. There'll be in the coming weeks, there'll be new opportunities to more easily click on links to send notices to your representatives. So if people can continue to come back to this, use it as a resource, it'll allow you to be able to see what's directly in your neighborhood, right? What are those chemicals? What kind of risk are you experiencing? So that it actually has, a local impact being told to your local representatives.
I really appreciate that because I think our audience, we're feeling so overwhelmed by everything that's happening that it's hard to get a handle on what we can do proactively. So again, I encourage folks to also visit EDF, the Environmental Defense Fund. That's edf.org. And again, the other website was clearcolab.org. And Sarah, please don't hesitate to reach out for anything that comes up that you think we should be informed on, any calls to action. We are here to amplify your message.
Oh, I so appreciate it. And thank you so much for all the time on your show.
Absolutely. You try to have a good weekend, okay? Take a deep breath.
Okay, you too.
In a field with clean air, wherever you can find it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sarah. Take care. Let's take another phone call. I know that. Oh, I didn't mean to hang up on her so abruptly. Paul is in Seattle. Thank you for hanging in there, Paul. What's on your mind, my friend?
Oh gosh, it's my turn. Oh,
yes.
Right.
Hi.
Yeah, I was thinking that, like Tim was talking about Nero, and Nero fiddled as Rome burned. Actually, that's kind of the comparison is not so bad because actually the scholars think that Nero actually set the fire that burned Rome, and he did it so that he could blame it on the Christians.
Right.
And actually, the fire of Rome is kind of a misnomer because in those days, Rome was perpetually on fire. It just got worse when the Great Fire broke out. But Rome was always on fire because they had what were considered high-rise apartment buildings that were 4, 5, 6 stories tall, wood buildings, and everybody cooked over open flames. So I mean. Imagine that, right? You can't even have apartments now that people can't even handle an oven, but people cooking over open flame and buildings like that, they would be torching all the time. And the reason it was so bad was because if you've ever wondered why our modern cities are in the streets are in a grid, like a rectangular grid, it's because in the old days, Rome did not have that. Rome just had meandering pathways that went all over, and it was really hard to get to one place or another, and that's why the fires were hard to put out. So, but Nero set the fire, and then he wanted to blame the Christians, and then he also acted like he was helping putting them out. I mean, he did help to put it out, but yeah, he blamed the Christians, and that's what led to the execution of the apostles Peter and Paul on October 13th of the year 64. But Trump is. I was likening this to the fact that. What have we had in the last 2 weeks?
Yep.
The stock market has tanked.
Yep.
Like 5,000 points. And what did we show for it? No new tariffs and no new trade.
Nope. Just billionaires making more money. Have a great weekend, Paul. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yep. It's a really a good perspective to come from while Rome burned. Yep. Thank you. Take care. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation. When we come back, Mike Nellis is going to join us after the news.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home. Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home. I want to say hi to our friends listening on KTNF AM 950, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota, listening in the evenings. We love having you here. And our friends in Seattle listening on KKNW 1150 AM, the alternative talk station. Thrilled to be part of your family, as a matter of fact. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors for making this conversation possible. Thank you to Source Solar. Go to source.solar, make an appointment. Maybe it's time for you to get solar panels on your house or business and join over 100,000 happy customers in the Chicagoland area. And don't forget, next Tuesday, I will be broadcasting our show live from 5 to 7 at the Madison Tap Room from Minocqua Brewing Company. We'd love to have you come by. It's got a great selection of food. They've got the best pizza. Oh, my God. Oh, now I'm hungry. Well, I'm having pizza later anyway. But they've got a great selection of their beers, of course, including Joint Session. They're just a little Delta 9 version of soda is all I'm saying. It's very tasty. And you can pick up at their tap room in Madison, along with a lot of their other great products. And we want to thank our sponsors from the way back in. It's been great having conversations with you about problem gambling, as I have been sharing some of my personal stories. I loved our guests who were here on Wednesday talking about the programs that you can reach out to them about at 1-800-GAMBLER or areyoureallywinning.com. And I don't know the location yet, but our comedy show for Kids Above All, the Stand Up for Kids comedy show, will be on June 5th. So put it on your calendar and then remind me that I've got to remind you where the venue will be. I'm so excited to welcome our first guest, our only guest of this hour. Mike Nellis joins us, Democratic strategist, former senior advisor to Kamala Harris, founder and chief strategy officer at authentic.org. I'm reading his bio from his Blue Sky. Raised over $1 billion for Democratic candidates, including Adam Schiff, Gretchen Whitmer, and Pat Ryan, long-suffering Notre Dame sports fan. So, there you go. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm good. Well, now I'm hungry because you're talking about getting pizza in Madison and drinking a beer. So
I'm saying.
Yeah, that was some effective advertising from you.
I've already told the audience that I'm going to be ordering pizza around 8 o'clock tonight from Frank's Pizza over by there. But, I'm trying not to stress eat. I've been, are you taking steps to take better care? I think last time you told us you've been trying to get in better shape, because I'm trying to do like supplements and eat better and things like that. How about yourself?
Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. So, I mean, for listeners at home, like I used to weigh like 600 pounds. I now weigh about 350, so I've lost 250, and I've lost about 50 since January 1. Doing it not by refusing to eat, but doing it the right way, cutting out sugar and exercising and calorie counting. So I'm taking all my stress and turning it into something good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm trying to be mindful about things. I don't know. What would you have? I mean, the last 2 weeks have just been absolutely bonkers, Mike. And I just don't. Could you have even foreseen it was going to be? I mean, we knew it was going to be bad. First of all, right, Mike? We knew this was going to be bad. There was no good could come of Trump in a second term. We knew with Elon Musk, it was going to be a disaster. But this is bonkers, isn't it? With the stock market and the tariffs, what are we doing?
It is bonkers, but it's predictable. I think that Trump's nonsense is playing out pretty in an obvious way. And here's how I would frame it. A guy who has built his entire career on being an amazing negotiator, having built his entire political career on saying, I'm going to be tough and I'm never going to back down and I'm going to fight for what I believe in, starts this week, ends last week with Liberation Day, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And puts all these tariffs in place, and they're absolutely ridiculous. He put tariffs on an island that's uninhabited and only has penguins on it. That's how dumb he is. And spends the whole week going, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to back down. Hold firm, and we're going to get to American greatness. And then he folds.
Yeah.
He folds in the middle of it because the markets were down. And then he sends out all of his right-wing influencers to go online. He's got the White House press secretary saying, the art of the deal. He's amazing. He did it. He's negotiating these great deals. And Trump comes out and goes, yeah, I did it because the market was tanking. Like, he just admitted that on live TV, and nobody reported it. It was incredible. So this is a man who we know is weak. He's got a weak chin. You throw a punch at him, and he backs down, whether it's the stock market, the Democratic Party, whether it's foreign governments. He doesn't have a leg to stand on. He can't get anything done. There's no cohesive plan here to help the American people. None.
Yeah, not at all. And you're right about like the press secretary. I never retain her name. I can see her in my head, and I wish I didn't.
Carolyn Levitt, I think.
Carolyn Levitt. Okay, so right to your point, it's a great deal. It is so surreal. I mean, like I feel like I'm at a sorority meeting, and they're trying to tell me why to pledge, and she's telling us that all these countries are begging for negotiations, and she won't tell us who. So we have no. I just love how like nothing has to have any substance to it, even if everything is disproven, considering how wildly the market's swung. I have people on my Facebook page, we were talking about 401ks a couple of days ago and the absolute plummeting nature of the stock market. And they're like, yeah, well, it was a record comeback, but it's still half of what it was prior. I mean, like they're eating this crap up by the spoonfuls, Mike, is all I'm saying.
There's a lot of people who are going to eat it up, but the vast majority of Americans, I think, see right through this nonsense, which is...
Okay.
I do. And if you look, consumer confidence is plummeting right now. Donald Trump's approval rating is plummeting right now. His approval rating, he was negative 5% if you average out the last, 2 weeks. But if you just average out since Liberation Day, which was late last Thursday, he's lost another 4 or 5% since then, and this will continue to sink in. At the end of the day, he was elected on a promise to get prices down on day one, which is a quote, And he was elected because people were frustrated about grocery prices, housing prices, affordability across the board. And all he's done is make things more expensive. And on top of that, he's creating a crisis on Wall Street and a crisis in the bond market that's going to send a ripple effect all throughout this country. And people are going to lose their jobs due to layoffs, and things are going to get more expensive because of the tariffs. So nobody has more in my pocket than they did when Donald Trump became president of the United States. Yes, there's going to be like some percentage of people who's going to be sycophant about it, and they're going to they're going to think there's some long game. But real people who have real stake in this, they know what's going on, and they know they're getting hurt right now, and you can see that in the numbers.
So my husband was explaining the bond yields about how our debt is owned by bondholders, and so when those numbers fluctuate like this, that's where we're in danger, and that's what you got everyone saying that the president's reacting to. Is that right?
Exactly. Well, and it's I'm not an expert on this. I want to be clear, but it sounds
I'm over
like
my skis on this stuff.
Like Jamie, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like Jamie Dimon. This is where my MBA comes in handy. Thank God for once. And but Jamie Dimon and I think was out there saying that the federal government might have to bail out the bond market. That's how bad it is, because foreign investors are pulling their investment. They're saying right now that they're worried about the state of the U.S. economy and they're worried about the state of the government, and so they're not going to put money here and they're not going to hold on to their bonds. Hugely problematic. And on top of that, right now in Europe, the value of the euro is skyrocketing right now because people are putting their money in Europe. That means right now, international investors and likely domestic investors in the United States believe that Europe is a better place to put money than the United States. And that is broadly, generally unheard of. It tells you that there is a crisis in the economy, and it is localized entirely within the United States. That is hugely problematic.
Wow. And when you mentioned the consumer confidence report, right? How much do administrations, how much do our electeds take a look at those things?
I mean, I think a good elected official would take a look at that. And certainly if you're the president of the United States, I would be caring whether or not people feel confident in the economy and whether or not they feel confident in the direction that the country is headed in. Because, look, if consumer confidence continues to tank, people are going to stop spending. And if people stop spending, businesses are going to lay people off. And businesses are going to then, because they're not making enough revenue, and then people are going to stop spending in addition to that. So it just creates like a cyclical impact where people who have disposable cash are not going to be spending it on consumer goods. People are going to be tighter with their groceries. They're going to be tighter on going out. They're not going to go out to concerts. A drop in consumer confidence just has an impact everywhere. It can drop wages. It can drop unemployment, or increase in employment, It's going to be a huge issue. And hopefully there's somebody at the White House who's paying attention to this, but I'm not entirely sure that Donald Trump cares, because last weekend he spent the whole time at a golf tournament he was hosting, which, good news, he won his own golf tournament again. I think that's like 10 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, right.
And right. I'm assuming this weekend he'll be golfing again, because that's what he does. So he's not doing the work of the American people. So hopefully somebody's paying attention. Maybe Elon's got one hand on the wheel. I don't know.
Oh my God, please. I don't know if that doesn't help. That's not soothing. And again,
at this point, I would take Elon over Trump.
Oh my God. Well, you're right.
Elon's anti-tariff.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the fact that he was ripping into Peter Navarro, I guess that's something, and also possibly had
that was incredible,
right? They called him stupid. Oh my God!
I posted it on Blue Sky, and I was like, "The girls are fighting."
They are fighting. Yeah, it's just
the girls are fighting.
Absolute insanity. And what did you think about Trump standing in the Oval Office and just bragging about how much the billionaires in the room had made during the turbulence, or are making?
It's disgusting. I mean, it's a perversion of what government should be doing, which is that government should be working to improve the lives of every American, but most importantly, folks who need help, who are trying to get themselves out of it, put food on the table, buy a house, start a family, retire with dignity. And they're not doing any of that. And for him to just be bragging about how much his friends made just really irks me, probably more than anything. But the thing about Trump, if I can just rant for a second,
please.
I think you told me last time this is a
rant safe zone. Absolutely. Go for it.
Excellent. Trump is incredible, and I'm going to give him a compliment first, and then I'm going to come back to it, so just bear with me. Donald Trump is incredible at identifying the problems in this country that are real and that the establishment and the Democratic Party refuse to talk about, because he's right on more than a few things here in how he's approached the three main issues he's going after, which are, immigration, government, spending, and then tariffs, right? He's right on tariffs because to a certain degree, America does get screwed, and particularly working Americans get screwed when they lose their jobs. He's right that the government can be inefficient and that there is a lot of things we need to do to make it more efficient. And he's right on immigration in a few ways, which is that like we need to be smarter about how we keep people safe and how we make sure to do it. But then almost exclusively in every solution, he goes for the laziest, dumbest, meanest possible thing that you can do, and he doesn't do anything that helps people. So the entire tariff crisis he's created here, all it's done is put money in the pockets of very wealthy people who can afford to buy the dip, who can afford to ride the waves. But for somebody who was close to retirement, right, lost 5 to 10% of their life savings that they spent their entire life earning, they're going to be in trouble right now. And for all the people who are losing their jobs right now, they're not worried about the stock market. They're worried about how they're going to pay their rent at the end of the month. So I'm really glad that Trump's rich donors and all these corrupt billionaires are doing really well, but regular people weren't doing well before, and that's why Donald Trump won, because Democrats were trying to help but didn't do it fast enough. And now Trump just doused gasoline on the fire. But he's amazing at identifying the problem, and he's the worst at creating the solution. Just the worst at creating the solution. It's unbelievable to me.
And that's my thing, too, is people, on my Facebook page, again, like raging. They're like, look, it's all better now. Yeah, he put out a fire. He stopped. He started, right? My husband was talking about it. It's like, you want us to thank you for pulling us up off a cliff. You shoved us. Like, I'm holding out for dear life. I wouldn't be in the situation if you hadn't created. Anyway, you get me worked up.
It's like a sitcom character. I think there's like an episode of Boy Meets World from the 90s or something like that where one of the kids starts a fire in the lab, and then they put it out, and then everybody's like, oh, my God, thanks for putting out the fire. And then the whole episode he has to eventually admit that he's the one who started the fire in the first place. Like, that's what this feels like to me. Yep. The only difference is he's the president of the United States and not a middle schooler.
Yeah, well, God. We are hanging out with Mike Nellis. Can you hang out for another segment, my friend? Possibly longer?
Absolutely.
Great. Mike Nellis, he's a political strategist, a former aide with Kamala Harris, and we're very thrilled to have him on the show. What's the website folks can check out for the work that you do now?
Authentic.org.
Authentic.org. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation on WCPT at 20, Heartland Signal, KKNW, and KTNF.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
No detours, no distractions. Just bold ideas and real talk. This is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Joining me on the line is Mike Nellis, Democratic strategist, former senior advisor to Kamala Harris, founder and chief strategy officer at Authentic. Go to authentic.org and learn more about the work that he does. Okay, Mike, first of all, what are your thoughts on a Supreme Court that unanimously rules against the Trump administration? I mean, you got to really do something sideways for even Alito and Thomas to go, yeah, we can't go with that.
No, I thought it was nice. I was pleasantly surprised to see that reality still matters in the Supreme Court, or at least common sense and logic. But, that's, to me, more than anything, it's about the egregiousness of what the Trump campaign has been doing on immigration. Because don't get me wrong, I'm the first person to tell you, let's get violent criminals out of the country. Let's keep people safe. Let's be smart about how we have our immigration policies. But we're sending, look, due process matters for law enforcement for many, many reasons, but one of the reasons is because mistakes happen, all right? We have a lot of great law enforcement officers all across this country who are trying to do the right thing more often than not, and they're going to make a mistake, all right? And let's assume for the sake of the argument, because I don't know exactly what happened, let's assume that ICE made a mistake and took a man that they shouldn't and sent him to El Salvador, which we can talk about sending people to El Salvador, which is a whole other, to me, completely insane thing. But let's say they made a mistake, but you have the due process so that you can correct that mistake before it goes too far. And what the Trump administration done is they've completely absconded with due process for a ton of people in this country, and they're making mistakes on top of it, and then they're refusing to double down. So the fact that it even got to the Supreme Court in the first place for them to correct their mistake is egregious in and of itself. But I'm glad that, all 9 justices were willing to do the right thing, at least on this issue. I don't enjoy the Supreme Court very often, but I was very glad that they did the right thing here.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is that he wasn't supposed to be scooped up. He wasn't supposed to be sent to El Salvador. But the press secretary then triples down and says he's a vicious gang member and a human trafficker. Like, I know that I guess you can't sue for that kind of, what the freaking frack is that? Like, just don't even address, you don't even have to answer the question, but to then do that. Go ahead.
The playbook for these people is to never admit a mistake, to never say that they were wrong, to, just continue to plow through and act like everything he does makes him a glorious god in the eyes of the American people, which is ridiculous. It's the same thing as what they've been doing since Election Day, which is pretending like they won in some mandate when in reality they won a very close race by 185,000 votes in 3 swing states. And they gaslight people into believing that everything he does is popular, that everything he does is just, when it's not. And it's the same thing here. I'd have more respect for them if they would just go, yeah, we screwed that one up. But they know that what they're doing on immigration is so cruel in the approach that they're taking to it, that if they admit that they've made a mistake and that they get rebuked in the way, frankly, they got rebuked by the Supreme Court this week, that it's going to take the support away from Trump's immigration policies. And that's the only thing right now that he has to stand on. If you look at the polling with what the American people are saying, they're very mad about the economy. They're very frustrated with Trump's conduct in office. They're very frustrated with the corruption they're seeing in Washington right now. This is by far, in my opinion, the most corrupt administration in American history. And we're 80 some odd days into this thing, so we got a long way to go. Yeah. But people are saying, broadly, I prefer Donald Trump on immigration than I do to Joe Biden and the Democrats. But it isn't by much. And every day and every time they do stuff like this, it gets a little bit lower. And with Trump's approval rating hanging by a thread, if he's fallen from where he started, which was probably like a pretty generous 51, 52%, and he was down to 45% before Liberation Day, and now he's lost a few more points, like he's hovering in the low 40s, they're panicked about their electoral prospects right now because he is a drag on the Republican Party. And he's a drag on this country, period. He's a drag on the Republican Party. He's a drag on the economy. He's a drag on probably all the people in his life, too. But they're taking out right now, and the only thing they've got to stand on is immigration, and they're losing their ground on that, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but then to have the press secretary come out and say that we're floating the idea of deporting legal citizens. And I don't care if you put criminals or whatever after that, because we are, as you mentioned, they already rounded up somebody they shouldn't have. So that means all bets are off, that nobody is safe, right?
Right. I think they're trying to create a culture of fear, and they're doing it across the board. And what they're really doing is they're taking the power of the federal government and they're using it in ways that have never been used before. And they're doing it to punish college kids on campuses who have political views they don't like. They're doing it by going after law firms that represent Democrats or people that they don't like. And they're going to continue to do stuff like this. And what Donald Trump is doing is he's touching the wall to see if they're made of stone or if they're made of paper. And this is an old Roman quote, right? Which is, we thought we had built this civilization and it was built in paper. And that's what he's trying to do. The good news is there's enough pushback from the judicial system, and they seem to be largely complying with it for the most part. They're still kind of testing the edges of that, but we're very early in it. My concern for them, and I think I would encourage any conservative that might be listening to me right now to be thinking about this, and if you're cheering on this sort of degradation of the law and order, imagine what happens in reverse when you get a Democratic version of Trump that starts going after Republicans in a way that is illegal and unconstitutional, which I wouldn't support if that started happening either, because I think due process and the rule of law are incredibly important. They're there to protect the minority. They're there to protect people who aren't in power. That's what the Constitution is written for. You don't write a Constitution like that for the wealthy and powerful majority in this country. You write it for people to give a basic standard level of your fundamental rights and freedoms. And the Constitution due process are included for immigrants who are in this country. It's for everybody who is here, whether you like it or not.
Thank you, because it doesn't say American citizens when we refer to rights. right?
No, it says all men are created equal, and we'll put a nice asterisk on it and include women and people who are non-binary. But it's just a little bit of modern times. But it's the intentionality of it is it's for everybody, all right? And America's not perfect. We've made a million mistakes, but at its idealistic and at its most romantic, it's a place where anybody can come here and build a life and be upwardly mobile and come from absolutely nothing and create something that matters. And I still believe, while it's harder than it's ever been before, I still believe it's possible, even with a guy like Trump in office, to do that. And look, I'm here because there were some brave people from Ireland and some brave people from Italy who came over and fled extreme poverty and lived in squalor in this country and built a life and gave me an opportunity to have the life I live now so that I can give my son an even better opportunity to live in this country. I want everybody to have that. Every single person who comes here. Doesn't mean we should be stupid on immigration, like we shouldn't be letting violent people into the country. We should be smart about how we secure our borders, but we don't have to be unempathetic and mean and cruel to people, and we certainly shouldn't be violating their due process rights.
Man, can you stay for another segment? Because we've got a lot more to talk about.
I think so. Yeah.
You think so? Okay, one more segment. Thank you so much for your time. It's Mike Nellis. You can find him on Blue Sky, Democratic strategist, former senior advisor to Kamala Harris, founder and chief strategy officer at authentic.org. And you'll have to see what one of his the video that one of his haters made of him and Pete Buttigieg on his Blue Sky. More after this on WCPT 820, KKNW 1150, and KTNF 950 AM.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hi, this is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Armanetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine, and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Everybody, just having a little technical difficulty there. Trying to get myself back plugged in here. We are talking to Mike Nellis. He's a political strategist, former aide strategist for Kamala Harris, and now the chief strategy officer at authentic.org. Go to authentic.org and learn more about the work that he does. We've got more to talk about, Mike, so thank you for giving us an extra segment because I do want to ask you about, the electeds are going to be back in their communities. How do you feel about these empty chair town halls that some folks are having?
I think it's an incredible moment because the Republicans have deluded themselves into believing that the Democratic Party is paying people to show up to their town hall.
Oh my God! Yeah,
so they've canceled them.
Okay.
Which is just unbelievable. And by the way, this happens every midterm election when the party out of power is unpopular. Democrats sometimes delude themselves into believing it too, which is very silly. Like the people are very angry right now about what's happening. And so the Republican Party, like Mike Johnson and the NRSC, the NRCC, which is the organization dedicated to electing Republicans to Congress, they are telling their members to stop hosting in-person town halls. And so Democrats just started hosting town halls for themselves. So you see Bernie Sanders and AOC are hosting them. Chris Murphy and Maxwell Frost were doing a bunch. Tim Walz is going around the country. So they're going to vulnerable Republican districts and hosting the town halls for them and getting absolutely massive crowds because people are so frustrated. So it's really incredible. And I'm sort of proud of the Democratic Party. And people who know me, I'm a proud Big D Democrat, but I'm the first one to call out the party when I'm not happy. And there's been more than a few times I haven't been happy. But as we get our footing, we're starting to find a new way to fight and a new way to talk. And hosting a town hall in somebody else's district would have been a pretty controversial idea a few years ago, and now it's the default play. And people are doing it on their own without a massive organization structure. So it's really cool to see. I'm glad to see Tim Walz, and I love Tim Walz. I'm glad to see him out there doing it.
Yeah, I'm a fan. It was so funny because I still have quite a few conservative acquaintances. I don't know that I can say friends quite that much. The taunting is a lot that I get from them, the sliding to my DMs with stuff, and at least it's better than the other things and the names that get called by people who listen to the show, as you can imagine. imagine.
No, I bet.
But one of the things, I mean, like one of my friends posted about Tim, a former friend, about Tim Walz and how excited he was about the Tesla stock. And it's like, I mean, like in comparison to what, to your point, like, you know, Dems shouldn't fall for, they're paid protesters or they're paid to be at the town halls. It doesn't help, Mike, by the way, though, that Musk comes in with money to pay for people signing petitions and offering $1 million to folks. So, I mean, we can't, just saying, that doesn't help that narrative, does it?
Well, almost every attack that the Republican Party makes against Democrats, some of them are legitimate that need to be addressed, but most of them are almost always projection.
Yep.
They love to talk about George Soros and Democratic billionaires. And look, there are Democratic billionaires out there. There's a system that needs to be fixed here about money in politics. But Elon Musk spent $26 million trying to buy the Wisconsin Supreme Court last week. And that was, by the way, that was only a week ago. Feels like a lifetime ago, but it was only a week ago.
The billion-dollar cheese turd lost. I'm just sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. No, and that was an incredible image of him looking like an absolute loser with the cheese head on. Democrats have a single-digit lead in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Elon decides to make the entire race about him, spends $26 million, and violates federal law by trying to bribe people to vote for his candidate by offering them $1 million. And it goes from a single-digit race to a double-digit Democratic blowout. So that just tells you how unpopular, at a minimum, Elon Musk is, but probably the Republican Party brand right now, because they got absolutely slaughtered in that election. And the other thing that happened in the last couple of days that I think is sort of underreported relative to, tariffs and all the other crises is Elise Stefanik, who is a member of Congress, a Republican member of Congress. She was supposed to be Trump's pick to be United Nations ambassador. They had to withdraw her nomination because they were so panicked that they were going to lose the special election for her district. And they only have like a 3-seat majority in the House right now. So it's an incredible kind of like last 10 days of momentum for the Democratic Party. And I don't want to get, too excited about it because we have a lot of work left to do. And more importantly, I don't want to get too excited about it because people at home who don't care about petty partisan politics like I do, they just want to survive, and people are getting hurt right now.
Yes, I agree with that, and I'm doing the petty stuff. I'm actually calling it Petty Patty in my adventures. But I do have a listener who would like to...
That sounds awesome.
Thank you. I'll tell you about that about some other time. But I've got Roosevelt on the line who would like to ask us a question, or ask you a question. Roosevelt, you are on with Mike Nellis. What's on your mind, my friend?
Thank you for taking my call. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can. I don't know what tuna can you're calling us from, but we can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Are you trying to keep your voice down? Go ahead.
Okay. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well. About yourself?
Okay. I wanted to add to what you said. You struck a little bit of a chord with what you were saying. So we found out this week that I believe Japan, South Korea, and China. Wasn't it China? Did you see the three representatives from those three countries? So from what I understand, these guys couldn't stand each other, I mean, as far as countries, and now they sort of made a pact to deal with each other, and I believe in trade. Also, we just found out, well, I just found out this morning on the Toronto Star, which is the biggest newspaper in Canada, that Canada is moving towards the EU as far as trade. So like Jonas DeVito on this station has said before, the world is moving on. Okay, so so if the United States want to play these hide and seek games, or now you see me, now you don't, it reminds me of that movie with Tom Hanks and Catch Me If You Can. So what my point is that they're moving on. They're doing their deals and trades, no matter if they were mortal enemies before, or like in with the example of Canada. Canada, you don't want to. So what do you think about that? Do you think that? And I believe the euro is stronger than the dollar. That I'm not sure of. I haven't read anything, but I thought I heard something about that. What do you think about what I said, Mike?
That's true about the euro. Like right now, the euro is like skyrocketing because people think it's of higher value with the dollar right now. So you hit the nail on the head for I think what is perhaps the dumbest part of Donald Trump's tariff war. which is he calls himself the great uniter. That's what I hear a lot of conservatives on Twitter say. They're like, he's a great uniter. And the only thing he's united is the rest of the world against us. We are completely and totally isolated from the rest of the world. And look, I said this earlier, Donald Trump is right to a certain degree on tariffs, that we get screwed in the way the international order is, particularly when it comes to losing manufacturing jobs, particularly in the Midwest, by the way. And there is a nugget of something in there that we should be trying to solve. A tariff war like this only works if you have allies that you can bring together and create collective strength, which we do not have. The first two countries he put tariffs on were Canada and Mexico, our two closest allies, which was just an unbelievably stupid thing to do. And then the rest of the world is not only moving on, but they're uniting against us. All of Europe is completely united collectively against what we're trying to do. China, South Korea, and Japan, three countries whose governments do not generally like each other, particularly Japan and China, which is, a 1,000-year conflict at this point. They are in a trade pact together to fight against this, and that is playing out in so many different ways. And so if we were going to bring manufacturing jobs back to this country, if we were going to lower prices, if we were going to make it easier for the American people to survive, it would have to be by bringing people together. And maybe even more important than that is we have completely withdrawn and given up any credibility that we have on the world stage to lead. Our economic power is closely tied with our ability to make global decisions that keep Americans safe all across this country. And that's completely gone. So we're suffering at home. People are losing jobs. Things are more expensive. We're weaker abroad, and we're unable to keep ourselves safe. And China and Russia are gleeful about the opportunity that they have to be the world leaders. And Donald Trump is happy. Like, he calls himself, I've seen him be called like an isolationist or a protectionist, but what he actually is a destructionist. All he does is destroy things. When he was a businessman, he destroyed casinos, and he destroyed neighborhoods and buildings. And when he's president, he destroys our alliances, and he destroys your pocketbook. That's it.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mike, for what you said.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that question, my friend, because that's a very good point that you made. I wish I brought up earlier about the unification of China and South Korea and Japan, because that is a huge thing. It freaked me out last week, frankly.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, guys. Have a good weekend, both of you.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
Be well. Before we let you go, Mike, I wanted to ask you about, I know that one of the issues that you want to focus on is young men, or men in general, as far as being driven away from the Democratic Party and this toxicity that we're all sort of engaged in. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are in regards to bringing men back into or at all into the fold.
Yeah, well, I think about this a lot, and for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is that I'm one of the founders of White Dudes for Harris, and we brought a lot of people together to have this conversation, because what's happening with white men in this country, but also just young men, period, in this country, is they're struggling a great deal. I'm going to focus just, I think, for the sake of this, on young men at the moment, which is that young men are dealing with an epidemic of loneliness and depression and suicidal ideation, and they're struggling with any bit of connection right now. Like 1 out of every 7 young men report not having a close friend that they can talk to, which is horrifying to me. And then on the economics of it, we've had this incredible shift in giving more and more opportunities for women to succeed in society, which I want to say up front, we should do nothing to get in the way of. But what it's created is this is going to be the first generation of young men who will make less money than women in the history of the world, most likely. And for every 2 women who are graduating from college, only 1 man is graduating from college right now. And it's creating this massive problem. And what's happening is men are not economically successful, young men. They don't have any role models that they can look to. And what they end up doing is they get caught into this, right-wing influencer sphere where they're listening to creeps like Andrew Tate who preach violence against women. And they end up getting down this tunnel, this rabbit hole where they start hearing about Donald Trump and they start hearing about his politics. And a big part of the reason that Kamala Harris lost was because we lost not just white men. Kamala actually did better amongst white men across this country. Now, not by a ton, but she did better than Joe Biden did 4 years ago by about a percentage point. But because she lost votes with black men, and because she lost votes with Hispanic men, and she lost votes with like young Gen Z men, period. And we have to do better to give them economic opportunity, to give them opportunities to understand this new world order that we live in, where women should have more opportunity. Because if we don't, they're going to keep voting for guys like Donald Trump. And when women women are, and when men are afflicted in the way that they are right now, they're going to end up hurting women, and it's going to hold us all back. So this is something I'm spending a lot of time talking about, because Democrats have not done a very good job, I think, of talking to men in this country and giving them a stake in the coalition and in the future we're trying to build together.
I understand. I struggle with this because well, you don't have to have a longer conversation about it, because having been at the sharp end of a stick with men in my life, and I don't mean that in a light way. It's just
I'm sure.
Yeah, just saying. I know. I know that we said we would do one more segment. Is there any chance you could stick around for the last segment, or do you need to go? You can be honest with me. It's not a problem. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I think I can stick around. I'm just gonna. While we're on commercial, I'll check with my wife, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, if you're not there when I come back, I'll understand that she said no. How's that?
Okay. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'll stay on though. Okay.
All right. We got another caller coming in a moment. Let's continue our conversation with Mike Nellis, a political strategist, former senior advisor for Kamala Harris, and founder and chief strategy officer at Authentic.org. We'll come back in a moment on WCPT 820, KKNW 1150, and 9:50 a.m. in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
I don't know what happened. Oh, I guess that was weird. That was just abrupt. All right, let's continue our conversation with. Hold on a second. Am I out of order for this, or was this supposed to? That was really weird. Let me just run. Oh no, I don't think I need to do that. All right, let's go back to Mike Nellis. Maybe there's just a way of editing for for our conversation. Mike Nellis joins us again. Mike, thank you so much for hanging in there. I'm gonna take some of our calls for you. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Well, I'll let you go as soon as we get done with these calls. I promise. All right. I'll let you off the hook. Thank you. Here's Paul.
No problem.
Paul in Seattle. What's on your mind, Paul?
I just had time back in here. I want to just at least give Mike a chance to clarify, or maybe I heard it wrong, but like our trade deficit and our lack of manufacturing jobs are not because of somehow unfair trading on the parts of other countries. Well, this is a decision we made as a country, the United States, 40 years ago to become an information processing society. We outsourced all of our manufacturing during the Reagan era. So I don't see how tariffs have really a point at all. Trump does not have a point, because tariffs are supposed to encourage the purchase of domestic goods. We don't even have an adequate domestic supply to make that effective. In other words, okay, so I want to go for the domestic products. We don't have enough of them. So that puts a pressure on the supply of the domestic supply, and prices will go up necessarily because of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. To be clear, I don't think Trump is right on tariffs. I'm saying that he's good at identifying issues that are real, which is that we've lost a ton of manufacturing jobs, and I think a lot of American families and communities got screwed in the decisions that were made in the 80s and in the 90s when it comes to that. Now, the flip side of that is it's made things a lot less expensive for the American people, so that's always the economic trade-off that you have to make. But what Trump does, I think probably better than any politician, at least in my lifetime, he takes legitimate problems and legitimate grievances that people have, and then he twists them to turn them into something hateful, and he twists them and turns them into something that allows him to essentially profit himself off of it, because that's really what's happening here. They're gaming the stock market so that they can make more money, and that he thinks he's got an economic theory that he doesn't. But you're correct. I don't want to overly simplify, and I don't want anybody to sit here thinking I'm like, oh, tariffs are good. I mean, sometimes tariffs are good. There's a legitimate strategy behind that, but it needs to be thoughtful about it. My only point is, if we were going to get into a tariff war because we were trying to accomplish something, the way to do it would be with a collection of alliances, which is the way the global order works, and Trump has isolated us completely. So don't get me wrong and think that I'm supportive of what he's doing.
Got it. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Well,
yeah, thanks for your call.
Well, I'm going to let you get to your evening and to your weekend, and we'd love to have you again soon. Let me know when you have availability to come in studio, and we'd love to have you join us, my friend.
I will. Thank you so much. We're gonna have to do pizza and beer after, though.
Oh, no problem. Absolutely. Count on it. All right.
Perfect.
All right. Thank your family for me too. Thank you.
Of course, I will.
Take care.
You. Bye.
Yep. Bye. Oh my God. So, Lady B. So, there's one phone number, and I've been there's this guy who trolls us on our text page, and I know the number, right? So they're cloning their phone number in order to pop up as different phone numbers. So I think that's where Joan is getting some of those nasty texts. So someone is so invested in this show that they are using different phone numbers. How much do you need attention that you're doing this? Oh, pobrecita, necesitas más. ¿Qué necesitas? ¿Cómo puedo ayudar? ¿Cómo? Okay, let me. It's so funny. At any rate, you do know that those are traceable too. I mean, right? Why would you? We could find everything with this now. All right, tariffs do nothing. You can't do better with internal subsidies. Exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. Let's get to Victor in Oregon. Hey, Victor, how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, great. Patti Vasquez. You are the most famous radio voice that travels around the world. I'm out here in Oregon, and you sound loud and clear. I just want to reiterate and say that you had a great show today.
Thank you.
And have a good weekend. And, you can't really believe what Mike said was correct, except he forgot to mention that you really can't believe anything that's coming out of the Republican Party.
No.
They're always spinning it in their favor, and that includes these poll numbers that claim that Donald Trump has a 40%. He's down to 30%, and by the end of the month, he'll be down to 15% popularity. So you really can't believe anything that comes out of there, including job numbers, unemployment numbers. All that's going to be conjured up and, made up so that it looks like they're doing something. But we all know the Republicans are liars and they're cheaters, and you just can't believe anything that comes out of their mouth.
No.
And tariffs, yes, will not bring manufacturing. You know what did bring manufacturing back was Joe Biden's, was it the Reduction Act?
Right, the Inflation Reduction Act, yeah.
Yeah, that's what actually will bring back some manufacturing, like chip manufacturing. So,
exactly.
There's a lot of good things coming out of the Democratic Party that we should all be proud of. And I think Tim Walz would make a great president.
I think he's working on it. I think it seems as though he's working on it. I'm just saying. But to your point, there's an article in the American Prospect, the manufacturing boom we already had. So that the Inflation Reduction Act, to your point, was something that they had invested in, including for EVs. Remember, and that was such a conflicting emotion. That is a conflicting emotion for MAGA because they hate anything that's sold as better for the environment because they don't believe anything's happening or they don't care that anything's happening to the environment. But then now that they've got this superhero in Doge, and now they want to drive these tanks that look like they're out of Minecraft, and now people are buying up Teslas as their I'm a Republican status symbol, the kind of a thing. But yeah, it's crazy, super crazy.
Tesla, Elon Musk is going to have to sell X or Twitter just so he can pay for the batteries that come from China for his Tesla. They're going to be doubling and tripling in price. So he's going to have to do something, and if he wants to save Tesla. Already Tesla has got a bad rap, and people hate Tesla because they hate Elon Musk and what he's doing to the country. So, I think it's going to work itself out because all the Republicans end up shooting themselves in the foot. So,
yep,
keep on, and we'll see in the next couple of months as prices increase. Right now, everybody isn't worried so much because they're working off inventory for all goods and foods and whatever from China. But when that peters out, then prices are really going to skyrocket, and then you're going to see the MAGA base come out against Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
we'll see. I don't know. I think that 20% of them are so neck deep in the crap that they can't scoop their way out of it. So
they are. But
I'm just saying.
It's okay. Don't worry about these crackheads.
At least we can smell them when they come. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Have a good weekend, Patti.
You too. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye, Victor. Thank you. By the way, I want to thank the 708 for reminding me about when I'll be appearing. We've got some shows between now and June. I know I'll be on April 26th. I've got a fundraiser for Envision Community Services. I also have a show coming up on June 5th. I have some shows in between, but those are the shows these are fundraisers for organizations that I really believe in that help our families in the neighborhoods. So that's going to be on April 26th, along with Jaime De Leon, Ralphie Roberts, and Jeannie Dugan. And then on June 5th, we are doing a comedy show for all Kids Above All. That's Kids Above All, whose mission is to help children live happy, healthy, safer lives. You can go to kidsabovall.org and get more information. So far, we got me and comedian Paul Farvar on the show, and I'll get you more information as we get some in. I do want to remind everybody to take good care of yourselves this weekend. I still feel so weird, Lady B, occupying the space. I've been giving updates about my son Declan, who has severe disabilities and was born medically fragile. Our mystery boy, who has had a lot of challenges along the way. He's such a kind and sweet soul, and it's interesting to see him differently now because we know that he has one of the rarest genetic conditions in the world. He has something called primrose, and I'll be working with Lurie's to share our story because when he was born, I mean, I will tell you something. I'm going to talk to the nurses that saved his life and some of the specialists if I can connect with them. But I'm still friends with Sarah and Jody and Esther, and I'm going to let them know because everyone was so confused. Even my OBGYN was absolutely distraught because she said in the 12 years she had been delivering babies, she had never had one go so sideways. I guess the best way. Declan was not breathing. He had to be put on life support and took a lot of effort and talent to save him. And it turns out now it's possible they could do some genetic testing when they are presented with situations that are similar, like his lungs weren't fully developed. It's something that happens spontaneously. They couldn't have tested me or Steve. We didn't carry it. It's just a genetic glitch. And he is just such a sweet boy. And it's interesting to sort of connect with and find other families like ours around the world. So I'll tell you more about that as I learn more, because I'm just a week and a half into understanding more about 19 years with this beautiful young man. So I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank our friends in Seattle on KKNW 1150 AM Alternative Talk. Looking forward to coming out and visiting you someday. And we also want to say hi to our friends and good night and have a great weekend to our friends in Minneapolis, St. Paul, listening on 950 AM KTNF, and of course here in Chicago, and anywhere you're listening to us around the world, tuning in on TuneIn app or WCPT820.com. Thank you, heartlandsignal.com. Lady B, love you. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.